To start off, I wanted to go back to the year 2000. The world had just survived the millennium bug and the excitement around the internet was rampant. Starting in the 90s, valuations of internet companies were just rising and everyone started to believe that a new age was starting together with the new millennium. But then something happened. This growth peaked on March 10th, 2000, and the Nasdaq fell 76% in the following 2 years and a half. That's when, the so-called dot-com bubble burst. And this did not mean, though, that all internet companies disappeared. Some survived it and actually came to become the most valuable companies in the world today. And why did I want to start off with this story? Because we are seeing now a Web 3.0 bubble burst today as well, but interestingly enough, this can be as good as the dot-com bubble was for the companies that were really building the internet, as well as extremely bad for those who were just playing around. And in order to discuss this analogy and much more around Web 3.0, crypto, and the metaverse, we have invited an amazing guest here with us in this episode of Reperception. A fellow Italian that is pushing the Web3 revolution in one of the most traditional financial institutions in Italy, and that is also an influencer in this world. Yes, we host today Filippo Chiricozzi, manager of Web3, crypto, and metaverse at Banca Sella. He started off in food tech, where he was the co-founder and COO of Movenda, an online delivery platform, and migrated to fintech. He's also a professor of marketing and big data analytics at Università dello Studio della Tuscia and a Web3 content creator with his series Web3 Titans. He's joining us from Milan. Welcome, Filippo. Benvenuto.
Ciao, Andrea. Thank you for having me here. Really a pleasure.
It's a pleasure for us. Thanks for being on the show. And before we start off our conversation, I wanted to remind that this podcast is produced by my company, Andrea Iorio Keynotes, in partnership with Inevitable Education, the leading global platform to upskill devs and engineers for blockchain and Web3, aimed at providing you leaders the right toolkit to navigate and master the world of Web3 and AI. And last but not least, here's your host, Andrea Iorio. I'm an Italian keynote speaker to more than 100 companies per year, focusing on digital transformation, leadership, and innovation, and a best-selling author of 2 books in Portuguese. Yes, I'm based out of New York City, but I worked over the last 10 years in Brazil as the head of Tinder and as a chief digital officer at L'Oreal. I'm the official host of NVIDIA's Brazil's podcast called Vem Aí, entirely about AI, and I'm a columnist at the MIT Technology Review Brazil. I count more than 100,000 followers across social media, mainly on LinkedIn, and you can ping me through our website, andreaiorio.com, anytime for feedback, complaints, or even praises. So, Filippo, let's get now to our conversation. And just for people to better understand the way you think about Web3 in the current moment, I wanted to start off with a concept that you laid out in an article you published, which is that blockchains can be considered like digital nation states. I studied international relations, and to me, this analogy of, competing powers and trying to, dominate the environment sounds very much like what's happening with blockchains in Web3. So can you better explain the analogy, which surely our listeners are also very eager to understand blockchain and its impact in their business. So how do you think about blockchains as digital nation states?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's everything actually came up to my mind right after reading probably one of the most amazing books that I've read so far about, I would say, not technology, but broadly speaking, technology, social culture, psychology, and actually it's the network state, no? In the network state, actually, the definition is that you have to think broadly, you have to understand technology, not just like a silos, not just as something that is related to geeky stuff, techie stuff, things that it's only for the developers, only for devs, only for a specific type of I would say users, or customers or citizens, if you can talk it. But moreover, technologies can be defined broadly speaking as actually as countries, with each one with its own economy, with its own citizenship, with people that are actually working with its own currency.
And governance, I guess, as well.
And governance, absolutely, and governance. So when it comes to blockchains, when it comes to this type of technology, it's interesting to make some this kind of resemblance, no? Because you have the currency, so the tokens of each blockchain. So think about Ethereum. Ethereum, of course, Ether are the currency of the blockchain itself. You can have citizens that are actually the developers that are building something, so they are creating the economy within the nation itself, the country itself. You have the governance, as you said. So actually, developers can step up and maybe become the politicians or the ones that are actually leading within the same industry. But the good thing is that when you think about a country or a specific nation, you want the nation to grow up. So it means that the ones that are actually building from the very beginning the economy itself can actually create something that gives power to other citizens. So like us, I'm not a developer, I'm a marketing and sales guy, but I want to invest, I want to explore the different blockchains. So maybe I start investing in some specific tokens, and this kind of tokens, or maybe some specific quantity, or owning a specific quantity of tokens, give me the chance to become active part of the governance. So you can see that actually the resemblance, when talking to blockchain, we're talking to something that is very techy, that somehow could be difficult to know at the very beginning. I recall myself that the very first time when I was trying to understand blockchains, I was reading once, then twice, then 10 times, 20 times the different white paper, yellow paper, and making myself an idea, no, of how this works. But the more I was reading each different documents, the more the idea came to my mind that we were not just talking about the tech stuff, but moreover as behavioral economics thing, marketing thing, social thing, psychological thing. And that is the thing that as of now, it's actually everything. It's encompassed within a specific word that is called tokenomics. So if you move from blockchain, that it's very related to the technology, to the cryptographic technology, then you can move even to the behavioral economics, the economical part, the social part, that actually all the things around tokenomics. So you can say that you can build up, step by step, all the different opportunities within a country or within a blockchain itself.
And it's really nice, first of all, that you use this analogy, because as I want to actually dig deeper later on with you, analogies help people understand complex concepts, and we know blockchains are very complex concepts. And whenever people understand, for example, as you mentioned, about the governance system, about the money that flows around, and the tokenomics, that I believe the perfect analogy would be kind of like the sort of financial policies, or like fiscal policies, monetary policies of countries. I'm sure people better understand what's the ecosystem at play. And at the same time, something that I might want to add here and verify with you if it is exactly in line with your definition of it. As much as there are nations in the world, there is geopolitics of nations. And geopolitics of nation is who dominates, sort of either, of course, not only in conflictual, or at least, in talking about wars, but definitely how do you dominate other nation states with your influence? And do you feel this is something that is going on with blockchains, or maybe you even think that Ethereum has already dominated that space? What's your take on that? Or do you think they might even coexist, and each blockchain has there are definitely, specific features that make it, unique for a certain set of users, and maybe not so interesting for other. How do you see this kind of like relation among all the blockchains that are out there?
Yeah, you stated in one part of the question a very important thing. So there are different blockchain for different type of users. So as in geopolitics, you may have some countries that are maybe more prone to companies to move there because they have lower taxes on some specific stuff, or other countries that maybe are related to, I don't know, innovation. So they're more prone to innovation. So if I'm thinking to for example, the electronical citizenship, if I will remember, is in Estonia. So these are that kind of countries that are actually allowing people that are they really want people to come there and to use an approach that is more electronic rather than physical. It's actually the same resemblance can be seen in the blockchain. So we have, of course, we have some blockchains that are, as of now, way more, I would say, structured. So, for example, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. So Ethereum, it can be seen as the digital iron, no? So you can build through EVM a lot of different things. It's
Correct.
probably the blockchain that as of now has way more developers, so citizens that are actually building the economy. No, beside that.
And for our audience to better understand the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, it's kind of like a toolkit that makes it easier for developers to build on the Ethereum blockchain.
Exactly. So on the other side, you have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a digital gold, no? As most of people say, it's digital gold because you have a limited supply. So you will have 21 million of Bitcoin ever produced. It's a sort of reserve of value, no? So as it happens in real life. But at the same time, most of the people that start focusing on just two blockchain, but don't know that. I think that we have more than 1,500 different blockchain right now.
Yeah.
So you can see that all the different blockchains that are popping up, of course, some of them, I wouldn't say that are pointless, but they don't have much value. Instead, there are some others that maybe want to bring up something completely new. So I'm thinking about, I don't know, blockchain that makes it easier, the transition for Web 2 people into the Web 3, maybe introducing the social login. So creating the wallet, which is like using the social login at Google, as Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Or other type of blockchain that maybe wants to reduce the impact. So actually have low to zero cost of transaction. Some others that are just focusing on the banking system, that maybe wants to build onto the banking system. So as in the geopolitics, as you said, I see a lot of different blockchain. Probably some of them, you started talking about the dot-com bubble, so some of them will fall apart. Some others of them will remain and grow strong. But I still do think that we are in a very early stage. So we are early, it's still something that makes sense even 2023.
That's really true, Filippo. And one interesting thing is that you're definitely a very knowledgeable about blockchain and all of this concept, also because of your work. You're the manager for Web3 crypto metaverse at Banca Sella, one of the most traditional Italian banks, which was founded in 1886. So my question to you is, why would a traditional bank look with interest to these trends? And in particular, what does a Web3 expert like you does in his day-to-day at the bank? Traditional bank might be very well say, look, I'm a market leader in my region, or at least, I have more than 100 years in the market. These trends will not affect me. That's one way of looking at it. But surprisingly enough, or maybe not surprisingly enough, as you will share with us at Banca Sella, the approach is different. So I think our listeners that are oftentimes leaders that find themselves in the same situation, which is, I'm a market leader, I've been doing very well up until now, but I feel these trends might reshape my industry. Like, how do I better understand and react to them? What's the day-to-day job, and why do you think a traditional bank needs to look at these trends to better understand them and their impact?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first of all, let me say that at Banca Sella, it's a traditional bank. It's way focused into the Italian market. So actually, the Italian market is I would say, the only one that as of now is addressed from the bank. But since the very beginning, the bank has actually focused on innovation. So everything that has been done, especially in the last, I would say, 30, 40 years, has been like focusing on innovation, try to be at the forefront of innovation, especially in the Italian market. So launching the home banking, the mobile banking, the trading apps, and so on and so forth. So it made total sense, for the bank to start exploring new technologies, especially the one based on the blockchain. The good thing is that when I joined the bank in July 2021, so it's like a year and a half more or less, but since the very beginning, I found, this kind of willingness for everyone to say, okay, let's move on. Let's try to see if beyond the hype. So there was a lot of hype. No, so we were still in full second bull run or third bull run, maybe.
Exactly, and especially 1.5 years ago, it was just everybody was talking about NFTs and the metaverse. It was just that moment. Yeah.
Exactly, it was that moment. So we were in a situation in which it was one side of the people, actually the vast majority, that were thinking about cryptocurrencies or blockchain as what I would say scam or rags, because they were saying, okay, something that is simply pumping, they were
Yeah,
not
yeah.
seeing the technology, just on the economical part. But I would say that on the other side, that I was lucky enough actually to join a team of people, a bank, I would say itself, that was thinking, okay, but beyond the hype, there's something for sure. What are we missing, okay, in the equation? So we started scouting all the things that are laying behind, so understanding more about custody, about custodial and non-custodial wallets, about smart contracts, technology of the NFTs. So behind the very fancy JPEGs or the very fancy images, there's something, and you have to understand that something, that the idea of the non-fungible. So what it means non-fungible and what it means fungible, to better understand how they can be applied and drill it down even within a bank.
Exactly, and go maybe beyond the traditional applications that might be related to gaming or socializing, or at least collectibles, and actually go much beyond and understand that they are unique, basically tokens that are proofs of property of anything that could be digital or even physical in a way or another. Which has enormous applications, not only in finance, but also in traditional businesses such as healthcare, pharma, and so on. We will discuss that in a minute. But to better understand then how we can look at these trends, what does a Web3 stream manager at Banca Sella do? Or what he or she should do in any financial institution? What do you look at, and what are the top of mind projects, some those that you can share, of course, that you've been working on?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I do think that the main thing that is driving me and actually the team that we're building is curiosity, because of course we are coming from the Web3 mainly and mostly because of personal curiosity. So we were scouting of new opportunities. We were trying to understand how the blockchain was working, cryptocurrencies were working, NFTs were popping up, and why they were popping up. So I would say that the very first thing is actually a continuous scouting and research activity. So what do we do is actually try to understand how we can better shape the opportunity within a bank, but of course for the main customers of the bank, so the one that are actually using the platform that we're offering. So it can be retail customers or small and medium enterprises or bigger enterprises. So it means on our side, what I'm doing as of now is, of course, two main activities. On one side is continuous scouting and researching. On the other side, try to shape the activities that can be at the forefront of the solution that we're building.
And when you mean scouting, and you mean mostly looking for solutions out there in the market, or you guys also develop some solutions internally, like looking at the ecosystem, or also, pushing for the ecosystem, or at least for internal projects and people to better develop solutions internally? What's the balance there? I'm sure there's both of it.
Yeah, so definitely both of it.
Yeah.
So on the first side, of course, as of now, we are a very, very small team. So they're just like a team for the whole group, because Sella is a group of different companies. But within the bank, there are just 3 of us. And within the whole group, there are just 8 of us. So not that much. But the main thing is that we are on one side scouting opportunities, like joining events, like smaller and bigger events. So we work very closely. We're starting to work very closely with different communities all around Europe. So all around Italy. So our main aim is not just being the one building or being the institution that is, on the at the top of the pyramid and just like looking down what happens, but actually gets our hand dirty with the communities itself. So we're actually scouting with the communities, talking with them, trying to understand what they're willing. So how we can help them, and what kind of value can we give to them, and of course what we can have back as value. So that is definitely one of the activity. The other thing, of course, we are building solution for our customers and users. Unfortunately, I cannot I can't talk that much about that. I would have loved to, but I can't talk about that. But I can assure you that we are currently working on more, I would say, multiple streamline as of now, because we really want to make sure. Unfortunately, Italy is still a small market for blockchain. An estimation, just talking about NFTs, we did a rough estimation and we estimate that we have less than, I would say, 10,000 holders all over the
Okay.
internet. So they're just like, a very small market, a very small niche. This is like an estimation, a rough estimation that I was able to provide, just like talking with people and make a sort of small analysis, of course, between different communities, and a small one in terms of, I would say, on-chain analysis, but a very small one. On the other side, when it comes to crypto, it should be a bit more, because it should be the 10% of the Italian people should hold at least crypto. But this is an analysis that can be, it's public analysis provided. In any case, the thing is, the market is small. We want to help the market grow, of course, by building things and solutions that people really want, users really want. So this is our main aim, rather than thinking about the techie part, the geek part. Of course, we want to make the understanding for the people as easy as possible on one side, and even the usage should be as easy as possible. So when I was referring previously to those I'm seeing popping up different kind of solution in blockchain that are reducing the friction, to enter the blockchain. We are trying to do the same as an institution. So create opportunities leveraging the blockchain, but I'm not 100% sure that people does have to know that we are using blockchain. So,
That's the point. You're perfectly right. When we look at the apps and the way that many of them look like, to be honest, they could be Web 2, they could be Web 3. We don't know. It's just the way that they work and the way that, of course, where trust is placed. In Web 2, applications will be through an intermediary, either an internet company. In Web 3 would officially be through the blockchain. Therefore, it is decentralized. And so, but the way they look like, I mean, some of the Web 3 applications, also called as the apps, they're definitely looking alike any Web 2. And so, as you said, if you reduce friction, which likely is one of the reasons why maybe when we look at NFTs, and the way that they're purchased, although, like purchasing an NFT, through a wallet, and it's not that hard though. All of that friction has likely made, only 10,000 people in Italy hold an NFT. And so, but when you look at the upside in a, country with 60 million people, and of course, overall in the world, building these kind of solutions, especially for a financial institution, makes it possible to actually reach a new type of scalability that maybe in very saturated markets, which are the traditional financial markets, already, Sella has, I'm sure, millions and millions of customers. You can find new growth channels, which is something that any company, not only Banca Sella for sure, is looking at. And this is interesting because in a way it makes us understand a little bit of your day-to-day, the scouting, all the, solutions search. At the same time, though, it makes me think whether, especially because it is a team that you mentioned across the group is 8 people, it is a team that, of course, has to live in an environment that, again, has a lot of people that, made success and were raised and, they built their professional career and kind of like almost their beliefs in a Web 2 world. And so my question to you is, how much of your job is also to be an evangelist of Web3 solutions, or at least try to explain and make them clearer to people within the company and, of course, outside of the company as well, that they add value to the company and to the customer, that they're not super complex, or at least not as complex as we might think at first. How much is that? Simplifying the understanding of Web3 concepts, how do you feel it is part of your job as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming to the third part, I would say, the one that I was that I haven't mentioned, but now that given your question, I was thinking more and
there
more
naturally.
Because, yeah, absolutely. So it's because it's part of the everyday. It's absolutely, I wouldn't say that it's like I wouldn't say it's a task. No, it's a part of every day, because it's I would say, the leitmotif that is coming with me. Either I'm talking within the bank, either I'm talking with my friends, with my dad, with whoever. No, so every time I say to myself, okay, I have to explain you why there are NFTs and what are the opportunities of NFTs, why there are cryptocurrencies, what is a DAO, and so on and so forth. But
And
yeah, it's the education. It's like a huge part of our job, a huge part of my personal job. It's something that we are striving on a daily basis to make sure people understand, and even the education and the formation part. It's, I would say, a huge one. Yeah.
and talking about dads or kind of like, grandmas, grandpas, it is funny because oftentimes when they look at people working with Web3, they're mostly like associating that only with gaming. They don't think we work or that we do any of that. At least that's why that, like, oh, you work with technology and digital. It's like, okay, so you're playing around the whole day. It is not, definitely. And so getting back to this point, of course, it makes it much more part of strategic conversations if we're able to simplify this concept. And so taking a segue on this, I wanted to ask you, how are these, to actually push forward these ideas, and especially what are some of the best practices that have worked for you to better communicate these ideas? Is it like simplification? Is it like hosting events, all hands meetings, and you're there and you explain people or at least answer their questions? What has worked with you? Because I'm sure that this is one of the biggest challenges that any of our listeners faces if they want to push for a Web3 transformation within their business. It is, how do you make this part of the conversation? What has worked for you?
Yeah. First of all, of course, this has been my approach since the very beginning. No, because to understand blockchain, to understand this kind of technology as a non-tech, so as someone that was coming from a different environment, as you said at the very beginning. Moreover, when I started studying the blockchain, I was coming from a completely different environment. So from the food tech, so something that was completely, I would say, far away, from the blockchain itself. But the thing that actually worked very well to me actually has been rereading, as I said, a lot of time the things, and try to make an analogy, try to make it simple, and try to stick to the main concept. So, like, for example, if I have to explain the asymmetric cryptography that is actually at the basics of the blockchain, I wouldn't go starting to say you have a private key, you have a public key, they interact in this way with all the graphic and so on and so forth.
That would be tough.
People have to understand that there's an opportunity that is laying behind. So the thing that actually, to me, in my personal opinion, has actually worked is trying to make them understand the opportunity, trying to make them understand what they can do starting from there, or actually what could be the end of using the blockchain. So in that case, the aim of using the blockchain, and then from there getting back more and more and more and more, because you have the attention, you have the focus from them, and then you can drag them and see, okay, to reach the goal, we have to do these kind of steps. You have to understand these kind of steps. So stay with me. I will go step by step and try to try to do baby steps to reach the final goal. So that is the only way I do think that all of us, at least the one that are trying to educate in the space, should do, instead of being so techy, so geeky. Of course, it depends on the people you're talking to. So that's for sure.
But you're perfectly right, because to be honest, maybe there's not even a point in being so techy, because they do not need that information. They need to understand how that benefits their job or how that impacts their customer, and so on, and how can they apply it. So I totally agree with you on that. And this makes me think about the concept of an NFT, because NFT has, I wouldn't say suffered very much from that, but at least has this kind of like association that is just, a digital collectible, digital art. It is nowadays associated very much with a speculative item that, was just, for speculation. But it is much more than that. And I think because you're an NFT expert, I wanted to also to pick your brains on, for our audience and listeners to better understand what an NFT is, so that you can define it in your words, and to better explore together with you some of their potential applications beyond what we just mentioned, collectibles or digital art. An example we can discuss, or at least that's maybe someone who's listening is familiar with, is Starbucks launching their NFT-based loyalty program called Odyssey. it is something that is, I wouldn't say unheard of, but at least one of the pioneers in this space, at least coming from a very traditional company. Beyond food, we see that with Nike, we see that with fashion, companies launching their own NFTs. So that, how would you define an NFT, and what are some of their potential applications going beyond speculation?
Yeah. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So what is the difference between fungible and non-fungible? No, NFT, non-fungible token. Fungible, one thing is exactly the same one of another. So if I have €5 and €5, these are fungible. Non-fungible,
Okay.
one token, something is completely different. Even, I mean, not completely, even with for just a small frame, but it's different from the other. So picking something that, of course, it's not correct, but picking something that is very widely used in NFTs, we can say that all of them are one-on-one. So all of them are different. Okay, so if you get,
Gotcha.
I won't be technical on one-on-ones, but that's it.
But let's say in real world would be like a plane ticket. Like I purchase it for me, but I cannot trade it for any other plane ticket.
Absolutely.
Because of my name is on it, because of that route. I cannot really exchange it because of the date and so on.
Exactly.
Sort of.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I can purchase two plane tickets for the same day, the same destination, whatever, but there's something that is changing. So, for example, the timestamp of the purchase. So
exactly.
That's it. So it's an NFT. Yeah. How can they be leveraged in our real life? Actually, for everything, because if you think about, clinical trials and concert tickets, or whatever it comes to your mind in terms of services, train ticket, plane ticket, purchase of booking for an hotel or whatever. Each one of them are actually some purchases that we do in an interaction with a counterpart using a specific currency to hold something. Okay, it could be usually physical. So if I'm going, for example, for a clinical trial, what do I do? I pay some euros and then I get back to clinical trials. Okay.
Yeah.
The difference is that at a certain point, for example, in that case, I have to hold all the different papers, put it somewhere, and then remind me that I have them somewhere, and then bring them for maybe another analysis or whatever. In the case of the NFT, imagine that you have a sort of digital identity. So you have a place like a wallet, a digital place. Let's not call it wallet. So a digital custody place in which you keep all the information, all the records on your personal behavior, but adding the complexity and even the opportunity of the blockchain itself. So maybe using the privacy, maybe using all the layers that are typical, that are encompassing the chain itself. So you can be sure, you should be sure that those kind of information has a privacy layer, between you and them. So people that are even trying to access them cannot read them if you use a specific technology. So I do think that we will come at a certain point in which usually we talk about tokenizing of real world, so bringing on digital different real activity, real stuff. When we reach that kind of point, probably all of us, we will have a wallet that it's not called a wallet. Maybe it's something that we have on our iPhone or Samsung or whatever is the brand that we're using for our smartphone, or maybe something physical like the ledger, so like the small kind of USB keys to store our cryptocurrencies. So when it comes to NFTs, the potentiality of the NFTs is that each one of them is completely different from the others. So each one of them can represent and can be an attribute that can define our own persona. So there could be a future in which Filippo or Andrea can be completely defined because of the traits of the NFTs that they hold. So I can say that, for example, Andrea is a great speaker because he attended a lot of events. He as a speaker is participants. He interact with some specific social media or the ones in which he prefer to talk rather than post things. So it means that we can that could be a future in which we won't rely on cookies as it happens, especially on the digital side as of now, but we rely on traits and information that can define way more the persona of each single one, so each single citizen on the earth.
And this has, infinite applications, and it brings back to the issue of personalization, because if today companies want to personalize experience for their customer, consumer, or let's say in the health sector, to their patient, and possibly be more assertive in the way that they diagnose, or again in the health sector make predictions, well, they have to access the customer data. But because of the lack of transparency, and as a consequence, the lack of trust, which is something that actually blockchain comes in and solves. Maybe me as a patient, I'm not sure. Okay, I have a wearable here, the Whoops, but I don't know whether I should share it with that health institution. What will they do with my data? There's a lot of people that are very afraid of, for example, doing those genetic tests like 23andMe, because it's true, maybe we don't know what will happen with that data. And now, if blockchain comes and solves that, we can actually transform that data in NFTs. And I really like the idea of, again, health data, and the example that you made, that NFTs will be able to define who we are, because again, it gets back to the issue of ownership of data. If NFTs are able to make the user and consumer, patient, whatever, owner of their data, and bring transparency to the way that data are used by stakeholders, to be honest, me, Andrea, I would then love to start sharing my health data with any with any like health institution, as much as it is happening, at least in Brazil now. I'm not sure about Italy, you can confirm that, but there's this concept of open finance, where basically you can apply to have all of your, or at least some layers of your financial data shared with other financial institutions beyond yours. And so imagine this powered by blockchain, or at least, that data with NFT. You do it much more, with peace of mind in a way. And so I think for anyone that's listening is, there are infinite applications that are very much related to this kind of like transparency and trustless relations, which does not mean there is no trust. There is trust in the technology. There is just no need for trust in the intermediary that blockchain and NFTs bring about. And I think in finance, you were nodding when I was talking about open finance. I do not know what's the status in Italy, but think about all the implications of, customer data through NFT. I'm sure you guys are working on something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Open finance is it's a huge point, as well in Italy. So it started. I think it's a movement that started, I would say, 7 or 8 years ago. Right after the approval of one of the main regulations that actually is Europe wide, I would say, not just Italy wide. And yeah, of course, when you introduce even if you think there's something specific when it comes to blockchain, maybe we won't talk specifically about that, but it's called ZK rollup, so zero knowledge rollups.
Okay.
So something that actually introduce, I would say, a way more powerful privacy standard, in terms of data and the information shared. In that specific case, you can see that you will be way freer to share the information and actually make sure that this kind of information has a layer of privacy between you and the people that is asking the information. But moreover, the good thing is that, given the fact that when you interact with a blockchain, you have to sign transactions. So you have to actually say, okay, I want to interact with something. You can be sure every time that you can interact with someone else and make sure that you share only just the data that are needed, not all the data, not all your information, all your data. That is very powerful, I do think.
It is definitely. And this whole conversation is very important because, and I wanted to get this, on this topic, the one with which I opened the episode, which is the kind of like public perception of Web 3.0 now, because there might be Web 3.0 critics nowadays that say that it was all a fad, and especially after the FTX collapse, the plummeting of NFT prices, the revelations that active users in the metaverse are much lower than it was expected. So the public perception of Web 3.0 has worsened. But let's not forget that, again, as in the story with which we opened this episode, this has already happened in 2000. It has already happened across many, the numerous industrial revolutions after the first. So that, at first many players get into the game because definitely that's a gold rush, but something happens after, or might happen after, the bubble bursts. That happened with the first internet bubble. So that, just to sum it up and get your final perspective here after this amazing conversation, is, in your opinion, what are the similarities, if there are, with that first internet bubble, and what we can learn from that story moving forward?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that we've seen that late 2021, and I would say the whole 2022, no, it's been the year of Web3, even for investors. So everyone wanted to deploy capital in projects, whatever they were. So it could be bigger projects or solid one, like could be Yuga Labs or Doodles, or you imagine, no, you name it, like huge NFT collection that started by random chance and then became real behemoth, no, within the industry. I recall I wanted actually to make sure people to understand that it happened something even in the past. So with the ICO, so if we date back to 2015, 2016, there was the same bubble. No, so it was the same bubble. Everyone wanted to put money into ICOs. That I would say 90% of them didn't work out. So lucky those one that purchased Ethereum when it was at 0.31 euros. So lucky them. But beside of that, it happened in Web3, generally speaking. So it could be metaverse, NFT, and I would say Web3 solution all around in 2022. When the bubble burst, so probably 2023 is not that clear, but it looks like that we will be the year of AI. But in any case, we will see a normalization of usage in terms of Web3. So I expect that, unfortunately, some of the company, I mean, it depends on the point of view, unfortunately, or maybe luckily, some of the companies that started, by random chance or without any foundations, any solid fundamentals, will fall down. And the one that actually were good enough to better understand how to build up their business plan for the long run, there will be the one remaining, and the one that actually will keep building. Okay, so we will have this different two side of the coin. The good thing, the most amazing thing, actually, in my personal opinion, is that Web3 will be normalized. So we'll use more and more technology in the everyday, so in our everyday life, and we will see a growth of new opportunities coming from there. And as I said, at a certain point during our conversation, probably we won't see the technology on the hype like NFT, crypto, blockchain, but we will use it on our everyday basis. So.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you, because the golden rush brings a lot of people into the hype. You mentioned correctly ICOs, and everybody was launching new tokens, and there were new projects starting. A lot of people got scammed or pulled the rug, and that happened with NFTs and so on. And I think that this scares people off. This scares traditional economy people and leaders off. But at the same time, they might risk missing the real opportunity that's behind, that has been proving to be there after the internet bubble, after that wave of ICOs where actually crypto still increased, and those that were there because they had a project, you name it, Bitcoin, you name Ripple, you name Ethereum and so on. But if we close up ourselves to these opportunities and think they're just all a fad, I think we're going to miss a huge opportunity. So I think that's a message that was very clear from you to all of our listeners, that mostly are leaders in traditional organizations that really want to understand what's in it for them. And as you mentioned also, hype it or not hype, actually this technology has already been have been built over the last more than 50 years. AI, artificial intelligence, not a hype anymore, likely to really become, and the same, when we interact a lot with either smart appliances or with applications on the internet or on our mobile, they're AI-powered applications. And possibly, as you said, Web3 will be normalized, and we will navigate more and more with the apps. And so, and thanks so much. Grazie mille, Filippo, for being here with us. It was an amazing conversation. And before we wrap it up, I just wanted to have you share your contact information. Where can people find you if they enjoy the conversation? Where can people look at your webinars? Please share more, and people will definitely add you there.
Absolutely. I think that my first channel of contact is on LinkedIn, so everyone who's listening and want to have a chat, whatever, so feel free to ping me out on my LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation on whatever pop-ups to their minds. So it's fine.
Great.
Thank you, Andrea.
Filippo, thanks a lot. And to our listeners, thanks for making it until the end of the episode. We're very, very excited to have new guests. We will always leverage on their knowledge here on Reperception to better explain the impact of Web3, AI, and new technologies on your traditional business. So thanks for being with us, and until the next episode of Reperception.